Welcome back to Mortgage 101, your guide to home ownership with Clinton Wilkins and myself, Todd Vino. And Clinton, you've got your fine employee sitting beside you here.
We do. Blair Patterson. Thanks so much for coming, Blair. You know, really, July is all about pride in home ownership. And I know we kind of touched on it a little bit our last segment. For the listeners that weren't listening, you know, here we are again.
Yep.
You know, and I think that we're going to talk more about you know, really what does safety and security mean and why homeownership is so important.
Yep.
You know, specifically in the queer community. I do think that the percentage of homeownership is less, and I think for a variety of reasons, so we can talk about that.
Yeah. To that, Blair, what's that like to be able to work with somebody and to watch them fulfill their dream? I know I've asked Clinton these questions a lot of times, so it's nice to have somebody else sitting in your seat, in that hot seat, doing that role. But what's that like to have people who you meet and you have the initial interview with them, you go through their information, and you allow them to fulfill that dream of home ownership? What's that feel like for the first few times you did that? It must be exciting.
It is like such a thrill. My why is essentially everyone deserves a dream of home ownership here in Canada. So it doesn't matter your credit background, you know, your starting point, your gender, your anything like that. It's just fulfilling to get people into home ownership.
Do you think that for some people in the queer community, it's even more challenging?
I think it can be. I do a lot of queer events like queer hockey, volleyball, stuff like that. When I tell people I'm a mortgage broker, you know, once the response was, "Oh, I'm going to be a renter for life," and you know, homeownership is a very important part of the Canadian dream, and it's important for everyone.
So you feel that there's a disproportionate amount of people who are in the queer community that feel as though the best they'll do is renting?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
And, you know, you want to feel a part of that community.
And why do you think that is? What is some of the fundamental sociological reasons why do you think that is?
I think employment can be more difficult, or you know, socioeconomic background, education can be more difficult to access sometimes. And yeah, it's you know, a big piece of the puzzle that you need to fulfill. Yeah.
So when you had an opportunity to work for somebody like Clinton, who is an absolute icon in the city, and not to pump his tires too much, but he absolutely is. And I've
been around.
There you go. What was that like? What's it like to be able to have somebody like Clinton take you under his wing and say, I'm gonna show you the ropes here. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna give you this opportunity. What was that like for you?
Incredible opportunity. Clinton has built a huge brand, and everyone knows the name, everyone knows the face, and everyone knows you get the best advice when you contact Clinton.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, and I think the best advice for a mortgage, regardless, is from a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's where it doesn't matter, you know, what your background is. It's really, really important. You know, and I kind of take, it's a challenge that a lot of queer people think that they're going to be renters forever. I think home ownership really, yes, employment is important. I think credit's important. Obviously, assets are important. That's why we talk about these things over and over again. But sometimes it just takes a plan. And I think a plan is so important. You know, I think with homeownership right now, like we talk about the numbers, the average house price is $500,000. And yes, a lot of our applications have income with $100,000 plus. And that means probably in many cases, we need 2 borrowers to make this work. And I think maybe some queer people want to go and do it on their own. Maybe they're not in a relationship. Maybe that's a part of the challenge. And, you know, I think just to echo what Blair said, you know, I think in the queer community, there's kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. There's people who are working entry-level jobs because they haven't had access to maybe education or employment opportunities. Or there is the other end of the spectrum where it's like the professionals, like they're doctors and lawyers and things like this. And I think in both, you know, ends of the spectrum, there's challenges.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think part of the thing around building community and being safe and secure is owning a home. And that certainly isn't for everyone. I get it. But, you know, I think we need to break down as many barriers. And sometimes it just starts with having a conversation.
Let me ask you guys a question, okay? And this is a little off topic, but I think it's of interest. We talked about earlier in the show how we are generally quite progressive and we're moving in the right direction and we've broken down a lot of barriers. But how many people, and not exact numbers, but kind of speculate, are there people out there now living a hidden secret life who are gay and are not still comfortable with being
not still
out
out
of the closet?
I think that's still true.
Yeah, that's definitely plausible and likely.
I think, and I think that maybe it's less now than it was.
I would hope so.
Even from like when I started 20 years ago in this industry, I think it's definitely, we're moving in the right direction, but we need to remember that everybody's journey is different too. And I think us as people who are granting credit and making homeownership happen every day, we need to be very cognizant of people's situations. And that's, right from their relationship to their credit, to their assets, whatever. And I think that for us, we need to be unbiased to their situation, which we are. I've lived it. I've been through, relationship breakdowns. I've been through financial hardship. Like I know what it's like. I don't want to be there again, but I think that we need to do everything that we can to still be accepting and educate and hold clients' hands. Again, it comes to a plan. It doesn't matter, in what type of situation you're in. It really comes to a plan.
Blair, in the military, did you know anybody in that situation or circumstance that came out? While in the military?
While in the military, yes. I'm sure there were people that were, living more a secret life. But hopefully that is changing. But that was definitely, happening.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which is tough. I mean, it's 2024, and we just think, it's just really easy to be gay and be out.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily easy for everybody.
No.
And everybody's situation, it doesn't matter who you are, is different.
Yeah.
And, I'm certainly cognizant of that. And I think everyone in our office is. We have a very inclusive environment. And just because I'm gay and Blair's gay doesn't mean that, we're just very segmented. We have everybody in. And, I've certainly, in the last 19 years, I've had some people that have been not so happy with me and send some hate mail. I mean, I've been on the national news, so, I've been exposed to a lot of different people. But, I don't identify myself as, necessarily, one thing. I'm not trying to pigeonhole myself. I think, by and large, I really identify myself as a good person.
Yeah, you're and in particular in business, you are all business. You're I
am a business person, and I think I'm a kick-ass mortgage broker.
That's right. And you don't view it through the lens of I'm a gay man who's built an incredible business. You view it as I'm a kick-ass businessman, and I've done this.
Exactly. My sexual orientation is not impacting me doing a mortgage. Mortgages are not. Don't have any sexual orientation. Do you know what I mean? It's really business. And, luckily the clients here and people in Halifax have supported me. We have like 20,000 clients and from every different walk of life. It's really a pleasure to be able to do business with people and really support people's dreams, and I just hope that we can continue to do that.
Okay, let me ask you guys another question. It's a little off topic, but I guess it's about pride, I suppose, to a point. Is it a bit of a dichotomy? Is it a little challenging in this day and age to be mortgage brokers and people love getting homes and all of that, and that's a wonderful thing. People living in beautiful homes, and yet we talked about this homeless crisis and the housing crisis that is around us, and it's all around us, and that's such a dichotomy and a contradiction. What's that like, Blair, sometimes to work in an industry where you're seeing dreams come true and making a living doing it, and a nice living doing it, as you should, yet you see all of these other things going on right around us? Is that sometimes a challenge for you?
Yeah, you are seeing the wealth gap in Canada increasing. Ultimately, if you are working hard, if you are making that plan, you shouldn't feel guilty about wanting that dream of home ownership, and it really is for everyone. And
is it for everyone, though?
I believe it can be. You make a plan, follow through, and really just believe in yourself, work hard, and the Canadian dream can be for everyone.
Yeah.
I've seen people 10, 15 years ago that are just buying a home today.
Is that right?
I made a plan for them to say, okay, this is going to work for you in 3 years. You have to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
15 years later, they're buying their first home.
Wow.
And I see people in retirement that are buying their first home, Todd. So it doesn't matter, if you're queer, heteronormative, whatever. Everybody's situation is different, but I think it really comes down to that plan, and that it still comes down to the income, assets, and credit. That is not non-judgmental. Everybody's going to be in the same situation.
Yeah, and in many ways, it's the great equalizer, right?
It really is.
Yeah, which is I guess cool in a way that when all is said and done, like you said, those three things are going to be the deciding factor. No bank is going to say in this day and age, "Oh, you're gay. We don't want your money or your business."
Trust me, they want the money. They want to return to those shareholders, honey. Let me tell you. The one thing I want to talk about, and we talked with our producer Connor before we started the show. Where is the hip place to live if you're not, living in the North End, not living in the Hydrostone? I mean, those were probably historically a good place to be gay and live here in Halifax. Blair, where do you think? Where do you think people should be looking? Where are, what's affordable, what's safe? Where is their community?
Yeah, Bridgewater just had their first Pride. And
I saw that.
Very, very well attended.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So very close to Halifax, and I think that would be a great starting point for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Truro as well, a bit of a drive, but a very queer-friendly community and a great starting point. And Wolfville, of course. Everyone loves Wolfville in the Valley, and very friendly.
The wineries.
Good community.
Exactly.
I love it down there.
Yeah.
I'm from the Valley myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I grew up deep, deep, deep in the Valley. For me, I don't know if that's a place that I'd want to live myself right now full time. I think it's a great place to visit.
Yep.
For me, it's tough just because my life's in Halifax.
Yeah. What about Yarmouth and places like that? Can you get deals down there?
I think the real estate prices in Yarmouth are very
Expensive.
depressed compared to
Is
the
that
rest
right?
of the province.
Depressed, yeah.
The further you get away from Halifax, I think in some ways the cheaper it's going to be.
Yeah.
But where are the best communities? I think, Blair hit a couple of them on the head. I think New Glasgow also has an interesting queer community there as well. Mm-hmm. And the house prices in New Glasgow, you need to take a look.
Yeah.
They are very, very affordable. I think some of them maybe need some renovations, but you can buy some houses, in that $200,000 range that are pretty decent.
What about Pictou with the mill that shut down? Did any deals as a result of that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think all in that Pictou County area, lots of interesting things. And again, not far from Halifax. And the way people have worked has really changed since 2020. So many people work at home. And, I think the housing needs have changed as well. So I think people need to broaden their scope, broaden it off of the peninsula. I live on the peninsula. I live and work, but that's, not for everybody. And I do get that. And I think when we're looking at talking about getting someone into a home, we need to also remember affordability is so important. It's not just what we can get a client approved for. It's what can they afford for the long run. And again, we need to think really about Pride in Homeownership right now is about security and community and affordability. I think all these things are very, very important.
Yeah, and I think we can thank our guest at this point.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Blair. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
I get to see you every second day, but it's nice for you to join us here on Mortgage 101 and for our listeners to hear your perspective as well. If you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn more, feel free to visit us online at teamclinton.ca.